So since 2018, Menter Môn worked with Gwynedd Council installing Wi-Fi in towns in Gwynedd. So the past 2 years, we've carried out the installation of 8 systems, with the last one in Bala being launched earlier this year. And now we're in the process of installing another 5 systems across Anglesey. So we work closely with local experts and town councils and local businesses, etc., to identify the suitable towns, and got the drive and ambition to make the project work. So our role was community engagement, and while the local company Cardigan led on the technical side of it. So once the Wi-Fi systems were installed, we upgraded them with present software to collect data on footfall. So the second phase of this project has been to analyse and display that data to the communities. Now, unfortunately, not all towns have a Clive Davis, who's doing some excellent work down in Cardigan. So we had to think of another way of making this data useful for the communities, and that's how we came up with Patrwm, which is available for anyone to log into and have a look at the patterns across the towns. So just a quick map here, so you can see the ones in blue are the systems that we have either installed or are in the process of installing. The ones in orange are the ones that are planned for Anglesey. And there's one in red, which is a telemat system. So it's a company from the Cardigan area who installed it in Carnarvon, but we've talked to the local town council, so we can now adopt that data and bring it into Patrwm, so we can have a wider view of what's going on over the North Wales area. I'll just launch Patrwm itself here, so I'll just stop sharing for a second. And, there we go. So I'll share this with you now. So I'm hoping you can all see this website here. So at the top here, you have a map of all the installed systems. At the moment, the Anglesey ones aren't on there because haven't finished being installed yet. So these numbers here indicate the number of access points in each town. I'll just scroll down a little further. So we now have an overview of Gwynedd as a whole. So you can see here that it's for the last month or so. And by day, so it gives you an average of dwell time. So how many minutes that each device has been connected to the Wi-Fi system. 5 to 10 minutes. We've got 10 to 30, 30 to 60, and so on. The system disregards any device that's been connected for less than 5 minutes, as it sees it as passing traffic, and therefore probably not someone who's spending time in the town, and more importantly, spending any money in the town. So I'll just scroll down to Patrwm. So again, you've got an overview of each town here by day. So if you click on the name, and it will launch that the page for that particular town. You see over the last month, 13,277 visits with 7,814 unique devices in the area. So a quick map of the high street gives you a name of where the access points are installed. So that's on our office in Patrwm, and another one, Watson's Cafe, etc. And the colours that surround them are basically a heat map of which access points are the most popular over that time period.
Meilir, can I ask you to explain what access points are to everybody here this afternoon? Explain what they are and how they react, how do they work together?
Right, so your access point is essentially similar to your broadband router at home. So your phone or tablet will connect to this access point to request a Wi-Fi signal. So if you connected and if you signed up, you could then have free internet through that access point. The access point actually also just counts Wi-Fi devices that send any requests to it. It's basically just a white box that's been installed on the side of the building. You probably won't even notice them as you're walking through the town. If I scroll down further here, again, very similar graph to the previous page. Gives you a number across the days. If you then click on a day, it drills down into that day, so then you can see the footfall by hour. So as you'd expect, starts to busy up from about 9 o'clock, peaking around lunchtime and then dying off. A little bit of a spike around 5 o'clock when people are probably leaving work. There is an anomaly at the beginning. It's not because it's really busy at 12 o'clock at night. It's just the system counts all the leftover requests that it's had during the day and pops it in on the beginning. That's just an anomaly in the system. And further down the page, this will give you the actual visitor number. So at between 9 and 10, that's 37 people, unique visitors of unique devices on the high street in Porthmadog. Now the dates on these can be changed. If I go back to the top and click this little button here, so you can see today, yesterday, the month. You can pick from date to date, and you can have this year or the last month. Obviously, as time goes on and the more data we collect, we will be able to compare year on year for specific days or weeks or months during that year. It's just as the system matures, the more data that we will be collecting. So that's really a really quick tour around Patrwm. We do have some plans for the future. So we're going to integrate things like air quality sensors in there, so we can see how the footfall affects the quality of the air in the town. So we're going to use a lot of different IoT systems. That's the Internet of Things system, sorry, with basically sensors. We're looking at trialing sensors in public bins so that we can predict when that bin will become full, so it can be emptied before it starts overflowing into the streets, etc. We can also experiment with smart parking sensors, so we can display if car parks are full or how many spaces are left. There are weather stations, etc., that we can show what the weather was like on that day and did it affect footfall traffic, etc. So yeah, that's a really quick tour of the Patrwm system.
Gret, diolch Meilir. Sgyn rhywun gwestiwn I Meilir? Does anybody have a question on that particular introduction there to Patrwm?
Could you give us an idea of the range? As all the collection points look to be up the high street, I'm just wondering how far away from the high street that would go.
Yeah.
It's the range isn't fantastic on them. They're very similar to a broadband system. So you might be talking between 50 and 100 meters, depending on on what's in the area. If it's a clear line of sight, then you may get up to 200 meters. If you've got buildings, etc., in the way, it could be down to 20 meters. It's just completely down to what's in the line of sight of that access point.
So mae gennym ni gwestiwn gan Carwyn yn chat yn yma. You mentioned that a visit is counted anyone that's been around for 5 minutes. Is that around one particular access point or any of them?
That's a visit, so that'll be across all of them. So if you're walking from one end of the high street to the other and it takes you more than 5 minutes, then yes, it will be counted as a visit. Most of the high streets that you can drive through them in less than 5 minutes. So if you're in a car, the chances are you won't be picked up by the system.
Stella Shaw, we have, how do we know where the Wi-Fi access points are and how do we know the login code?
Right, on the on the first page of Patrwm, you can drill down into your individual town. So we were looking at Patrwm Webinar. So where all those little blue dots were, that's where the access points are. But anywhere really in between the first blue dot and the last one, there will be a Wi-Fi signal. So if you just check on your phone, search for a Wi-Fi connection, you should come up with, I think it's a Patrwm Webinar free Wi-Fi, is it in Patrwm Webinar?
Yeah.
So then you'll be able to connect to that. You'll then get a screen that pops up asking you to log in. So it'll ask you for your name, email address, and I think date of birth as well, is it? Yeah, from what I remember.
Yeah.
So once you've done that, you've then got access to the internet via that access point.
Trefan, gofyn, oes bwriad rhannu link i'r data craidd fel data agored?
Dafydd, eich bod chdi fwy pethau i ateb hwnna, really?
Dwi'n yn credu bod yna'n byd yn data craidd sydd yn sensitif o gwbl, ond bysa rhaid ni cael Paul i gadarnhau hynny. Achos mewn ffordd cwbl mae Patrwm yn gwneud ydy llnau'r data a'i gyflwyno fo de. Does dim mwy o ddata tu ôl i, does dim mwy o fanylion tu ôl i Patrwm na ydych chi'n weld yn barod.
Yeah.
Ond mae hwnna'n rhywbeth sy'n rhaid ni cael Paul Sandem i siarad amdano fo ymhellach. Sgyn i mor ddigon ar wybodaeth i atab.
Fydyn ni ofyn yr cwestiwn i Paul a felly fydyn ni yr ymateb i Trefan felly yn uniongyrchol. Trefan, os di hynna'n iawn gyda ti. Stella Shaw, so no login code then, and what does the system do with the person's personal data?
Right, when you log in, you'll create an account. So therefore, you will have your own username and password that you set for using the system. It's also GDPR compliant. So if you select that you don't want any marketing material be sent to you, then there won't be. Personal data, it's all stored in the system just for your benefit, really. It's not shared with anyone else. It's just stored in that system. It's completely up to you what you put in. As I said, it's just name, email address, and I think date of birth, just for I think that safety reasons. I think that date of birth is, isn't it, Rhian?
Yeah. And we've got another comment here by Claire McIntosh. Although visitor numbers and movement are really useful, it would be even more useful to capture visitor data for future direct marketing. Does the system allow for this, with the understanding that we need to comply with GDPR in order to retain and use this information? Yes,
so any visitor that's signed internet, so that there are two users, I suppose, to this system. The first user is someone that will sign up and wants to use the free Wi-Fi on there. So if they agree for direct marketing, then yes, we can use the email address to send them direct marketing materials. The second user is just anyone that's really passing by. All it does is count the actual device. It doesn't take any other personal details from that device.
Iawn, oce, na ni symud ymlaen, os di pawb yn hapus. Cyfle i chi ofyn rhagor y gwestiynau ar y diwedd ac yn enwedig hefyd i Clive Davies hefyd. O, gynna ni just un cwestiwn sydyn. Stella, does the system default to a particular website?
No. Once you've logged in, it's just as using the internet on your phone any other way, really.
Oce, diolch. A ni mlaen i Dafydd, yn rheolwr gyfarwyddwr Menter Môn. Os ti eisiau dweud gair sydyn?
Iawn. Sori, lle mae'n signal bach yn wael heddiw. Ond sori yn hwyr, oedd yr aelod seneddol ffonio fi just cyn logio ymlaen. Just yn fras iawn, mae gan y Llywodraeth Cymru agenda trawsnewid trefi, Transforming Towns. Ac mi fydd adfer stryd fawr yn blaenoriaeth gan y Llywodraeth wrth i ni gobeithio dychwelyd i'r norm newydd ar ôl Covid. Felly mae Llywodraeth Cymru yn gefnogol iawn i'r gwaith da ni bod yn gwneud yn Gogledd Cymru ac i'r gwaith mae Clive wedi bod yn gwneud. A wedi bod yn dilyn y gwaith yma yn astudio iawn. Yn y dyfodol, dwi'n rhagweld bydd Llywodraeth Cymru yn edrych i gynyddu faint o dechnoleg sydd ar gael mewn trefi ac am i drefi mabwysiadu technoleg smart. Yn yr un ffordd mae Tesco wedi wneud ers blynyddoedd, yn yr un ffordd mae dinasoedd smart cities wedi wneud. Mae'r un nawr gan Llywodraeth i weld hynny'n digwydd mewn trefi hyd a lled Cymru. Ac mae gennym ni gyfle yn Môn a Gwynedd i cael y blaen, os liciwch chi, ar Weddill Cymru, gan fod ni yn barod wedi dechrau gosod systema smart mwyn i ni wneud penderfyniadau ar sail data wrth symud ymlaen. Felly, da ni'n gobeithio fydd y systema yma yn helpu trefi yn yr ardal i ddychwelyd a adfer ar ôl Covid. Felly, gyda hynny, na i dysglwyddo rhywuna i Clive, sydd wedi brysur heddiw ydych chi ar y ffôn bore yma, radio bore yma Clive efo Covid, yn ni'n clywed.
Ie, fi'n gwybod. Problem bach da ni lawr yn Aberteifi ar hyn o bryd. Ond dwi'n taclo fe gambell bach gyda Cyngor y Dre a Cyngor Sir. Ewn ni trwyddo fe gobeithio. Right. Droso I fi then. So I'll be doing my presentation in English this time. So I'll just share my screen and go through some slides that I've got on what we've been doing in Cardigan. Okay, you should see a slide now with using digital and data to inform Cardigan. So those of you who don't know Cardigan, it's about 4,000, 4,500 people, the population. And I've had the, if I can get this to move, I had the honor of being mayor twice now in the town. First time back in 16, 17, and this, our lovely COVID year that we're all sharing at the moment. So I'm also a Cardigan County Councillor for the Pen Park ward, which is the area around Cardigan. It's a rural ward, which is where I've been councillor there for a number of years. And because of my sort of career background, I'm also the digital champion for the County of Cardigan as well. So that's allowed me to do other things on a county level in Cardigan, as well as what I've done in Cardigan. One of the things I did in 2016, which I'll mention in a bit, is create something called a Town Centre Partnership. And I tend to chair that. And it's a forum. It's not a formal setup. It's just a forum to discuss ideas. And some of those ideas include then the Wi-Fi analytics that we installed, and the town app and its analytics that we also installed, and some other technology that we have installed and intend to install. It's much of the stuff that was being spoken about already. So back in 2016, a younger version of me installed the Wi-Fi scheme, and those are the units that you can see some of the members of the Town Centre Partnership they're holding. And also the app was launched as well in an event as well. Both were funded and approved under a European Union project in phases of feasibility and showing the value that we would bring to the town. And so it was installed in 2016-17 in place. So that gave us a couple of data sources then in terms of passers-by. So there's people in the town basically. And then, as already mentioned, people can log into the Wi-Fi under GDPR. Email addresses are captured into an opt-in newsletter that's direct marketed out then from the 120 or so shops that we have if they want to put something on. The app then gives us some demographic information about people that are using the app and coming to the town. And some of the future plans we hope to do is use the Internet of Things, technology called LoRaWAN, to create like a well-being dashboard for the town, to give us a different angle on the town, an insight into different aspects of the town. All this data then is anonymized, and it's owned by the town council then, and it is used to the benefit of the town itself in terms of how we make decisions and things. So just like Maylin mentioned in the Patrwm, similar system, it gives us a single footfall, a sort of meshed network, single footprint rather, across Cardigan Town that allows people to access Wi-Fi in the town centre itself. So it's more towards the town, the sort of retail, the more economic part of the town. And then there's your login screen. So you've got your options then to opt in. You put your first name and email address, the terms and conditions that are there, and that's set on a background of Cardigan from a drone picture that we had done as well. And then the app available on the different platforms. We've got Apple and Google platforms then, available in Cymraeg and in English. Provides everything you need to know basically about the town in all aspects. So it's got the shops, places to eat, the history, the heritage, and gives you guides. And there's a bit of clever technology in there as well, which includes iBeacons. And these beacons are located across Cardigan. There's not too many of them, otherwise your phone will be pinging like mad. Some beacons are used to entice you into a shop, and others inform you like about the history and the heritage of the town. So there's a shop called Tonai Surf, and if you dwell in front of the shop for about 2 or 3 minutes, the beacon reacts thinking, oh, hello, this person's might want to come in. So it pings a message to you saying, call into Tonai Surf, get advice on the best beaches in the area. And Ben, who runs Tonai Surf, he is himself a surfer and does know a bit about the coastline in and around Cardigan. So he could advise people, and hopefully they'll buy from your shop as well while he's well in there. In addition, then there's another one. If you dwell outside Cardigan Castle, you'll get pinged about Lord Rees, and it was Lord Rees that brought the National Eisteddfod to Cardigan Castle. So
popeth yn iawn. Dwi yn sori Cardigan o'r
oh, someone's interrupting. I'll carry on. And so that entices people into the castle, and also shares the history and heritage of the town as well. So going with what platform does, we also collect the information, and it gives you the flow of traffic, the footfall, how long people are staying, how often they've come to the town, including people who've never been to Cardigan as well, the tourist numbers, what days are busy, quiet, you know, and during the day, what's the pattern of a typical day or a typical Saturday or whatever, and the number of people using the Wi-Fi, and in general, what kind of Wi-Fi traffic there is. And what we're tending to find, I think since it started being used back in 1617, it's always social media platforms are the top of the user list, and they've varied over the years. You know, it started with Facebook, Twitter, but it's drifting more and more into TikTok, Instagram over the past 4 or 5 years now. And then data from the app then, which is, it tells us about what kind of USPs we've got in the town. You know, what do people like to look up or search? Is it the hospitality venues? Are certain hospitality venues more popular than others? Aspects of the heritage, the history. And then it also tells us where people are coming from to visit us in Cardigan. So as you can see from the map there, a lot of people come from the southeast. 1 or 2 come from North Wales. But it's the M4 that really feeds us in terms of our tourism footfall, and also from where, you know, before COVID, obviously we used to have more or less European primarily in terms of visitors from outside the country as well. So yeah, we've had it for a few years. So yes, we can see the seasonality picture, and you can see on the top one there, the norm for us, it's quite static almost. You know, it goes very busy in summer and then drifts off and then repeats itself from about Easter onwards. COVID, obviously, we went into lockdown in March and we didn't come back out properly till sort of middle of July, end of July. And so the tourist numbers recovered quite well, but footfall never did recover all the way because a lot of people are still in shielding. So people are still avoiding, because we had, as you can see from the image there, we had a lot of people in town during the summer months, and they closed the roads, which helped a lot with social distancing. But we had, I think we had about 120, 130,000 people in Cardigan over the summer, and so it did affect a bit on the footfall side of things as well. And then, so in the future, what we hope to do, I think as already mentioned, we liked the idea of blending this information with other sources of information. You know, we know in Cardigan, you know, gut feeling us as people in the shops, that a dull, warm day is good for the town because people don't go to the beach. So, but you know, having more information and more data tied into the information that we provide, it's quite good to sort of be able to see that. Also turnover, some of the businesses have said, you know, that it's good to compare footfall with the turnover that they're making in their shop. So they themselves may be keeping those records, but if we provide that information, that provides that missing link for them possibly to see a full picture. And so this information can be used as well. So I, you know, use Twitter and Facebook in my role as a councillor. And so the Eisteddfod visited us in 2019. So I could quote figures from the system about how many people were in town. The result of several events happening on the same day. We had 13,500 people. 1,000 new people came to the town because we had a beer festival on, and the National Eisteddfod came along as well, which those images are representing there. Press releases that go out. We had a music festival called The Voices last year. So again, we could use these figures in the press release. And also these figures are used to justify you know, the funding. You know, we say, look, we're going to, you know, have the footfall numbers for funding this next year. We'll know the numbers and what can we expect. Newsletter then. So like I mentioned earlier, we got a newsletter going out every quarter. And so this is just a couple of examples. So people put offers up about what they can offer, like coffee and things like that, or what events are coming up in the next 3 months. So they tend to go out in a quarter, so they then show the events for the next 3 months. It makes the town plan ahead a little about what events they want to have. Makes some of the retailers think about, you know, what offers could we put out. So some of the shops put out offers, and we try align that then. So the last one I did was this one here with the Aberteifi Cardigan 100%, which is basically getting people to use Cardigan 100% for all their Christmas shopping this year, because as the situation is with this week, people are probably even more frightened to go into Cardigan because we've got a wave of the pandemic, COVID coming through at the moment. So there are a number of shops now have got online presences, and it's a new channel to market to them. They've developed it over the lockdown, and they've strengthened their online presence over the last 6 to 8 months. So we're promoting those shops then through an online campaign with 100% Cardigan. People can buy all the Christmas gifts locally then. And so, yeah, with the Town Centre Partnership, which I mentioned earlier, which is the underlying body behind this, there were gaps in the annual calendar, so we put in some trying to filling in. So we brought a carnival back. Carnival will be missing for nearly 20 years from Cardigan, so that came back in 2017. Barrel Run, sponsored by Mantle Beer, a local brewery in Cardigan. You can see we had the Other Voices, and that's Celeste there singing in one of the churches and one of the venues we had. We had 12 venues across Cardigan with music events for the weekend, which is great. And we twinned with Dingle in County Kerry, and they do something similar. If you look up Other Voices, you'll see all about that. And then the Lantern Parade, which is around the Christmas period every year, brings a huge crowd in town and brings the community together because they all make their own lanterns. The schools do, different businesses do them, and then we have a parade for the town then. Obviously this year it's going to be slightly different, but we are going to hopefully have some kind of display of lanterns in the castle for people to come in their household bubbles. And so the other aspect then as well for me, from my role as mayor, is to attract new business to the town, or people to take that leap as an entrepreneur. So there are different things that we can offer to those. We got the stats that goes out every month. So these stats that you've seen go out and they get interpreted, anonymized, there's no personal data, and they give a general sort of feel of what's been happening in the past month and how that pattern is developing. It also tells them in terms of what events are coming up, what to plan ahead and things like that. There's also the app as well. They can be included on the app. There's the Visit Cardigan website, which has a directory of businesses on it. Quarterly newsletter you've just seen. There's also a town map, which I got designed, and that also has inclusions and advertising for them. And that's 15,000 copies were produced last year, and they're distributed out to businesses and venues to be handed out to tourists and locals as well. Cardigan County Council obviously provides support with other aspects like licensing and food hygiene and things, so anyone can get support from that. And then you've got Business Wales, across Wales, and they also have a presence in Cardigan, and they can provide advice in terms of cash flow, business planning, etc., and what possible support and financially there is out there. So these are the kind of things that the data can be used for some of the stakeholders, such as the local authority, town council, businesses. So you can optimize and compare staff rotas and things like that. From my point of view, I was using it to measure footfall in terms of justifying grant applications, or to strengthen an application for funding, or give reasoning for a decision to be made at town council. So when I was mayor in 2016, I renovated the Cardigan skate park, and that we had the footfall numbers for that, so we could use that to say, look, this will provide a benefit to this youth population in the town. The Lantern Parade for funding, lottery funded that, and we could prove the lottery that it was growing every year in terms of popularity, and how we use the wider community to come along and do that, and similarly with the carnival as well. This is a photo from last week. There's me in my bling, and basically the reason I put this photo up is this is the business that opened last week, Burns Pet Nutrition, who have got 4 shops in the area now, I think. And the reason I put this up is that I told John Burns about the analytical system. I said, oh, we got about 90,000 people in town over the summer. And he said, oh, that means 1 in 3. Now that means there are 30,000 dogs. So he saw that his potential base for business was about 30,000 people, possibly dog owners, over the summer. So that's an example of how a business could use the data. And then that information I mentioned distributed, these are just examples of the kind of reports that go out every month to the shops then, in terms of stats and patterns, and then the events that happen, and to people to make sure they know that they're coming up, and the links to that, and what dates to be realized they need to be prepared for. And then I've got here some example of quotes from the different businesses in town. Tom runs one of the butchers. He's just happy that there's Wi-Fi in the town, basically. And Catrin Ocean, who run Crust, they can align their social media, because they sometimes have a nighttime offer in normal times, and they can see what days are busiest, so they can then align that and then message on their social media for the different events they have. Rod at Mundo's, then he likes the sort of demographic side of things, and he compares it to the turnover of his shop and see, you know, is he selling the right stuff, basically. Jackson down at Piece of Teepee, because he's quite busy, he likes just to see the infographics, the graphs that we've tried. So it just shows in terms of what the footfall in the town is and things like that. Anna runs Crafters Cwtch. We have cruises coming in at Fishguard. We had about 4 or 5 last year. I think we had an American cruise, 2 American cruises coming in, and they're given the app when they get off the boat, and the guy tells them then about Cardigan on the 30-minute trip up to town. And of course, with the guys getting all the information beforehand that these cruises are coming, a lot of the shops, including Anne, put an American flag outside the shop. So when they get off at the castle, the guide tells them to walk through town, and of course they'll see the American flag. As crafters' crutches are at the end of the town, so it draws the people through the town. So that was a sort of purposeful way of trying to get more of the Americans to spend some of the dollars in the town centre, basically. And then Geraint and Owen, you should see like the comparison of A/B. Does free parking make a difference to the town? You know, what kind of dwell time does it extend dwell time? Because people aren't watching their clocks when they're sort of parked up for 3 hours or an hour, or it's just free to spend that extra money. So they're spending maybe more than an hour in town, therefore they could be buying something, but they may then go for a coffee after rather than go running back to the car. So it's like a golden hour for us, really. You get a minimum of hour a dwell time that you know that they've bought something or something plus. And Susie runs one of the hospitals, actually Studio 3, and she likes to look at the footfall, length of stay, and how often people come back to town, things like that as well. And then Jonathan runs the castle. He likes the overall picture in terms of seasonality, because a lot of the castle's income comes from weddings and the hospitality and the accommodation that we have at the castle. And then Tonai, oh, there we go, there's Ben, who had one of the eye beacons I mentioned. So he likes to use the newsletter for putting his offers out there in terms of what he has on offer in the shop. So what next? Cardigan's too small for a bid structure, those of you know what a bid is, because we're mostly independents. We don't have many chains, so there's not much cash to spare in terms of putting a levy on people. So we always look for the forms of funding if there's a way of doing it, or the town council puts budgets together and other organisations that are part of the town centre partnership. So the idea is around improving the skills and awareness of that, using Internet of Things, as mentioned earlier. One of the things I'm also doing is trying to get Cardigan to become more carbon neutral, because we've got 4.3 megawatts being generated around the town at the moment through biodigester, wind and solar. And I'm putting together a project, or it's actually up and running actually, to do a pilot scheme whereby people buy that energy rather than the national grid. But it's uses the grid, but it's uses it in a clever way, apparently. I'm not the expert on this, but it's something I'm trying to do. But so basically, to finish off, making the town economically strong, engaging, relevant, diverse, adaptive, and more of a experiential. So going into Cardigan is to be an experience to enjoy, to dwell, to take pleasure in, not just to run in and leave, basically. So that's what we're trying to do with town centres. I'm sure that echoes what you're trying to do as well. And a cwbl, diolch yn fawr.
Gwych, diolch yn fawr iawn, Clive, fel arfer. Dwi'n meddwl bod yna ambell i sylw yn fan hyn. Carl Goff yn gofyn, I'm assuming the Cardigan eye beacons depend upon people joining the Wi-Fi network first.
Yes, correct. Or have the app loaded.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be active, the app. It just needs to be on the phone, and in the background, it's enabled.
Okay, Ebony Redhead, such incredible work in Cardigan. It really fits in with the supporting the foundational economy. This is so interesting. Will there be a recording available on the slides? Yes, there will be, Ebony, so I'll make sure I'll send them on to you. Gret, diolch yn fawr. Rhywun arall efo cwestiwn neu sylw? Anybody would like to ask Clive any questions or Meilir?
I just ategiad be oedd Clive yn dweud ydy. Mae rhywun wedi cyfeirio at Clive fatha rhywun sy'n, he makes the digital physical. Ac mae'r rhan technoleg ydy'r darn hawdd. Yr her ydy defnyddio'r wybodaeth yna i wneud penderfyniadau mewn trefi. A felly, yn ogystal â patrwm, yn ddelfrydol bys am modd creu mwy o Clives y gyfer pob tre. Ond yna'r her i trefi Gwynedd Môn ydy gwneud be mae Aberteifi wedi gwneud. A defnyddio'r data mewn ffordd o Tesco yn wneud, neu mae dinasoedd yn wneud, mwyn gweld impact yr unrhyw newidiadau maen nhw'n wneud mewn trefi. A wedyn mae Aberteifi yn sicr yn model roedd ni'n geisio ddatblygu yma yng Môn y Gwynedd. A fysa gynnon ni diddordeb mewn clywed gan drefi sydd hefo syniadau sut bys nhw'n medru Cynllai cyflwyno newidiadau, sut illa fysa'n gallu defnyddio patrwm i weld beth impact y newidiadau hynny. Felly, diolch Clive.
Iawn.
Nes di sôn os iau do Clive bod perthynas gyda y cyngor tre, bod rhaid i hynny fod yn weddol gry mwyn i bawb cydweithio fo'i gilydd y busnesau ac y cyngor tre, di hynna'n gywir?
Ydy. Na eto hwnna'n Gymraeg, iawn?
Ie.
Ie, y fforwm trafod yma, y partneriaeth dre ni wedi creu, jyst i ehangu ar hwnna, mae yna cyngorwyr dre yno fe, cyngor sir, cyngorwyr sir, swyddogion y cyngor sir, y coleg lleol, busnesau lleol y dre, y theatr y dre, mae 2 theatr y dre gyda gwir, a ni'n cwrdd wedyn bob 3-4 mis, a mae pob un rhoi mewnbwl. O, mae mentrau hefyd, mae 2 menter mewn yna, mae 4CG a menter Aberteifi hefyd ar y fforwm. So, jyst roi'r enghraifft bron i'r diwrnod, fi wedi rhoi llythyr o cefnogaeth fel Maer y Dre am gwariant dan grant Covid trwy partneriaeth dre wedyn ar gyfer gwelliannau yn y dre, ar gyfer stolion a ymbrel ac yn y blaen i pobl i aros yn hirach yn y dre dros tu allan i'r llefydd fel caffis ac yn y blaen. Mae grantiau gael yn gwella canol dre, mae Dafydd gweld ti'n felly mae cais wedi mynd mewn nawr dan Menter Aberteifi, ond dwi wedi rhoi cefnogaeth fel Mair. So mae partneriaeth gweithio, achos beth wedd yn digwydd slywyr dydd, pob un yn gweithio annibynnol y gili, a wedi popeth yn cael ei tynnu pob ffordd. So gan creu'r fforwm trafod mae popeth yn tueddu mynd wedyn yr un ffordd na beth ni'n gobeithio, achos tre bach i ni, 4,000 sydd yn byw yn Aberteifi.
Gret, diolch Clive. Fel dwi'n deud, mi nathon ni recordio sesiwn Clive yn Gymraeg nos Iau, ac wrth gwrs yr cyflwynydd yn Saesneg pen yma. Dyn os di rywun eisiau copi o y fersiwn sydd wedi cael ei olygu gan ein swyddog marchnata, os hoffech chi gysylltu efo fi'n uniongyrchol, rhian@mentermon.com, a na i yrru copi chi draw. Gret, os oes ddim mwy o gwestiynau felly, diolch yn fawr i chi gyd am ymuno fe ni pnawn yma, gobeithio bod chi wedi dysgu gan Meilir am Patrwm a gan Clive hefyd y bydd o data ar gyfer canol trefi. Felly diolch yn fawr iawn, diolch Clive, diolch Dafydd, diolch Meilir, hwyl. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, tara.
Hwyl nawr.
Tara.